Hello and welcome. I'm Jill Warren, the CEO of the European Cyclists Federation. Welcome to everyone who has signed up and tuned in to today's launch of the Women in Cycling Network. We've really been overwhelmed by the response we've had for this event, with over 1,000 registrations from all over the world. This shows us how great the demand is for something like this, and we look forward to connecting with you and finding ways to cooperate and support each other. Women in Cycling is intended to be a platform for women working in the cycling sector in the broadest sense, whether in industry, NGOs, and civil society, in the public sector and government, in consultancies, and so on. You'll hear more today from some really fantastic women about our origins and where we want to take women in cycling, so I'll keep things relatively short in this introduction. On screen, you can see an overview of our agenda for today. We'll hear an inspiring welcome address from Bonnie Tu. Then we'll hear some more information about women in cycling from our founding members who have been working hard to shape and launch this group. Then Reluca Fischer will moderate a session in which we'll meet some interesting women from across the cycling sector and hear their stories. We'll then offer you the chance to meet other women in cycling in a networking session before we wrap up. Timing is tight today, but if we do have time, we'll be happy to take one or two questions, so please submit these in the Q&A that you'll see at the bottom of your screen during the event. We also highly encourage you to promote the live event today on social media with the hashtag #WomenInCycling. Let's show the growing power of this new network by getting this hashtag trending. Thank you very much, and now I'd like to turn over to the welcoming address with Bonnie Tu.
Bonnie Tu, it's a great pleasure to have you to kick off the Women in Cycling today with us. You are one of the most influential women in the industry. You are the chairperson of the world's largest bicycle brand, and you have created the Live brand exclusively for women. What has been your inspiration and what aspects of the project are you most proud of?
It is a great pleasure and a great honor to be your speaker to kick off the Women in Cycling. Since I'm one of the women in this industry, it is my responsibility, and also it is one of my dreams to encourage more women into our industry, and also, of course, on the bike. The reason I started my Live brand is I simply want more women on bike. See, that moment of time, I couldn't find a suitable bike, and I even had to wear a men's jersey. So this is unfair. So I determined that I will change all the scenario. I want female as half of the world population. We are entitled to have something better, and we are entitled to be able to enjoy the cycling sports. So here I am.
Excellent. What do you see as the key obstacles that women face in cycling and in the industry today?
I think the most difficult things is when women approach the cycling. The first things your male encounter will tell you know nothing. They will discourage you. So we have to change human beings this kind of very negative perception about women doing the cycling, or even the women in the cycling, the bicycle industry. They think we have no idea. They don't understand that when we do the cycling, we actually get inspiration. We get a kind of empowerment. We have the kind of feel being more a sense of accomplishment. They cannot understand. We have that also that kind of feelings. So we must get the man to understand and respect our sense of belonging in this cycling sports.
Indeed. Looking from a distance, it seems that Taiwan has more success in bringing women in senior positions. What's your advice? What can we learn from that?
Actually, many people ask me that questions. And then I thought a lot about this kind of different even in Asia. If we compare with Japan and Korea, they are very different from Taiwan. I think it is because in Taiwan, I think we have less population. And then another is we have more education opportunities. So women have access to more affordable education. So, and then when we reach our career, we have more equal opportunities because we have, in Taiwan, we have less people. So every industry or company, they have to use whatever they have. And I always say that women are more prepared for their job than most of the men. This is a kind of a discrimination, but it is true that we female always think that we have to prepare for the challenge, for the task, while men always think they are more confident. They think we can handle whatever comes to us. So because we are prepared, so we take our opportunity more seriously because our opportunity is more precious. So in Taiwan, most of the women cherish their opportunity. They work with their commitment, and so the more senior people have to use female as they come by if they perform better than men. So that's why, as you can see, especially in Taiwan, many components, bicycle components, boss or entrepreneur, many of them are female.
What an inspirational start. Thank you so much, Bonito.
You're most welcome, and I'm very great honors. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We will now go to our next part of today. So I'd like to highlight the founding member organizations of Women in Cycling. These include Cycling Industries Europe, the European Cyclists Federation, Mobicon, Veloconcept, and Conabi. We're now going to hear a little bit more about the Women in Cycling network from 4 women from 4 of these organizations, who I'd like to introduce now. So we will be hearing from Isabel Eberlein of Veloconcept, Angela van der Kloof from Mobicon, Florence Grégoire from the European Cyclists Federation, and Lauha Fried from Cycling Industries Europe. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask any of the women, if we have time at the end of this session, we'll take one or two of them. Please put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Thank you very much. And Isabel, the floor is yours.
Jill, thank you very much. I'm really happy to tell you all how this started. We have like 2 founding stories, and I will start with the first one to explain to you how did it all start. So it was back in 2019. We were at the ECF Leaders Breakfast at Eurobike, so the world's largest industry fair. And we were in a room with about 200 people, let's say about 10% maximum women. And it was the atmosphere there in the room. And all of a sudden, a man raises his hand and asks the question, where are all the women? I don't see them on the fair. I don't see them on the panel. I don't see them here in this room. Where are they? They represent half of my customer base. And that was such a relief for me, because I was sitting in the audience and I got already really upset because I raised my hand at least 3 times and I wasn't called to ask a question. And I really felt I was not heard. And women were really a major minority in this event. And I came to the conclusion that it's not only at this event, but this is just a representation of the entire cycling industry, the entire cycling sector. So after the event, I approached the women in the room, Bonnie too, who you just saw in the video. She was also there. And then I got to know Laura Fried and Isa Summer from Cycling Industries Europe. And we said like, okay, we have to change something about it. It's in our responsibility to make sure that we present women who join the panel, who are there, who are seen, who are visible, and we have to do something about it. So the first thing we did, because the next event coming up was the Velocity, so we said we have to hand in a suggestion, a proposal, and we have to host a session at Velocity. And shortly after we handed in our proposal, the organizers got back to us and said, look, there's another group who wants to do the same things. There's another initiative. Isn't it better for you if you join forces? And well, we said, of course it is better if it's better to look at this broader. So we got in touch with the organizers, and that's how we got together. And I think that's now the perfect point to hand over to Angela van der Kloof, who can tell you the other end of the story.
Yeah, thank you, Isabel. So since 2000, I have participated in many of the Velocity series of conferences. And of course, all the time I noticed that there were relatively little women. And for a long time, I had wanted to help create a space for women to present and to share their experiences, to connect, to network, but it never seems to really happen. And then in 2019, together with Zoe Kruchten, who then used to work with ECF, and Saskia Kluit from the Dutch Cyclist Union, we tried to make something happen, but it did not work out. And so when there was the call for abstracts for Velocity 2020, we took our chance and handed in an abstract for what we called Not Another Gender Session. This session got accepted, and we started to plan our networking session. And at that point, also Ezra El Assawi, who was working as an intern at the Dutch Cycling Embassy, joined us. And then indeed, we learned about the initiative of Isabel, Laura, and Aisha. And we organized several video calls together and figured that we were quite on the same page, looking for the same aims, and that it would make sense to join forces and launch a network for women in cycling in the broadest sense. So all in all, Velocity is the glue that brought us together. And with COVID-19 around us, we needed to be patient. And we were first hoping for a physical get-together, but this didn't happen. We're still here, everybody working from home, but we kept on working on our ideas and ambitions for women in cycling. And so I'd like to hand over to Florence Grégoire, who will say more about this.
I will now present the aims and goals of the Women in Cycling Initiative. So the Women in Cycling vision, as you can read on this slide, is for a diverse, inclusive cycling sector that provides equal opportunities and contributes to achieving cycling's full potential. But to make this vision more concrete, we have also identified 4 main goals to achieve with the Women in Cycling. So if we can move one slide, yeah. These goals are not ordered according to any criteria of importance, but it's rather that they represent different areas of the cycling sector in which we think that diversity and inclusivity could be improved. So the first goal for us is the creation of an empowering platform providing networking opportunities to women from all parts of the sector. With this platform, we would like to encourage the exchange of views and experiences and the collaboration on projects and initiatives that will help achieve the vision. And in addition to networking, we think these exchanges could take the form of mentorings and trainings as well. Then another goal is to encourage organizations in the sector to adopt targets and policies that improve diversity and gender balance, and also that increase the representation of women in leadership roles. Then the third goal concerns events in the cycling sector. It's a very straightforward goal because we want basically to campaign for no more all-male panels. And finally, the fourth goal is of a broader kind. So we would like to ensure that the diverse experiences of women are taken into account and represented in decision-making bodies, projects, and processes that affect the sector. So in other words, we have seen a tendency for a few forms of cycling to get a lot of attention and resources, and we would like to make sure that the habits and needs of everyone are taken into account. So the habits and needs in terms of cycling, that they are being represented in projects, research topics, and other processes in the sector. So to finish, I will say also a few words of the values that are core for women in cycling. For us, collaboration is essential because we wish to overlook competition and to support each other to achieve our vision. So as Isabel and Angela have explained before, Women in Cycling was born from the collaboration of women working in very different areas of the sector. And we would like to keep focusing on our common goals rather than differences when growing this network. Then this diversity, of course, is an asset, and that brings us to the second core value, which is inclusivity. So everyone affiliated with the cycling sector is welcome to join the Women in Cycling Network. Women working in NGOs, in the industry, in bike shops, in planning, research, and so on. And we envision an open and diverse group with various lived experiences, a diversity of backgrounds, various positions, and countries of origin. And I would also like to mention here that when we say women in cycling, we want to include, we mean to include transgender and non-binary people as well. And then another core value would be integrity, because we count upon the honesty of everyone involved. We count upon the fact that we can trust, have trust in each other. And the changes that we strive to make are changes that will benefit everyone. Okay, so this is, I will now hand the floor to Laura, who will talk a bit more on concrete ways to join us.
Thank you, Florence. So I will now talk you through to a couple of tools that we have created to kickstart our activities. Firstly, you can sign up to our expertise portal where you can tag your expertise with keywords. And the idea here is basically that anyone looking for women for keynotes, for panels, for jobs, for networking can find the women here. And you can find the expertise portal on dedicated pages for women in cycling on Cycling Industries Europe website. Secondly, we have opened a LinkedIn group for women in cycling. And here we would like to welcome you to start posting your suggestions on what you would like to see this network doing and also how you would like to contribute. You can also share interesting best practice articles or research on the topic here. We will also be present at key events throughout the year. We are currently preparing a session at Velocity, followed by networking drinks, taking place in Lisbon in September. And we, of course, would love to see many of you there. So we would warmly welcome all women affiliated to the cycling sector to sign up to the expertise portal, to join our LinkedIn group, to come and see us at events. And most importantly, let's take on this challenge together to get women in all the places where decisions are made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you for all of that enlightening information about how we started, where we've come from, and how people can get involved. We have time for a couple of questions. I have looked into the question box here, and I've seen a couple of different times. Will we be able to access the recording or the presentation? We are recording today. I would say go to our LinkedIn group afterwards to be able to get the link to the session afterwards that you can watch again or share with other people you know who maybe might not have been able to join today. So the answer to that one is yes. We've had another question. Will women in cycling be considering partnerships with other organizations that share the same values? I think the answer to that is why not? Get in touch with us. We're always happy to collaborate. That is also part of what we want to do. We want to have a platform for networking and collaboration. So if we're all pursuing like-minded goals, then that sounds like a very good idea. One other question I see, can we enable the chat feature? The reason this has been turned off is simply because backstage we need to be able to chat amongst ourselves and get information from the people running the technical side. And, with such a large number of participants, it's hard to filter that out. So sorry about that. But that's the reason why the chat feature for participants is disabled. Looking at a couple of other questions, and this one I would like to, maybe put to our other panelists. How will we ensure our message reaches as many diverse women as possible? I think I'd like to hear all of your quick takes on that one. So maybe starting with Isabel.
Yeah, sure. I think the major point you've already mentioned, it's collaboration. So it is that we have to reach out to different groups. And I know that there are a lot of women out there campaigning for women in cycling on different levels. And we also just saw that there's another initiative in the UK, for example. And we also tried to include as many people as we knew, but I think it is only due to collaboration that we can become more diverse. And we also have to enlarge in our networks, and we have to bring in different people with different backgrounds, give them voices. And that's why we also have to partner with other organizations on the European level, on the global level, on the national level. And I'll hand back to Jill.
Yeah, thank you. Angela, would you like to add anything to that about how we're going to make sure we appeal to as diverse a population of women as possible?
Yeah, sure. What I think, well, one thing we already did is that this expertise portal is open for anyone, anybody, who thinks and would like to speak to audiences, being included in panels, can sign up there. So it is not just people we invite personally who can be in that portal. Yeah, so it is up to us, and I think everyone who is in the room here today to help each other. So to make sure that women do step up and that a diversity of women does step up. Yeah, and I think also we're very open for ideas that everyone else has. So always feel free to make suggestions to us and connect.
Mm-hmm. Florence, anything to add to that? You've had some very good ideas throughout the initiation of this group.
Yes, maybe something to add is to mention our group of ambassadors. So they will be introduced a bit later in this event, but we have started gathering a few inspiring women from all over Europe as ambassadors. And I think this can be a very good way to reach a very diverse group of women, because it means we also have people who will talk about the network in different countries, different areas, different fields. So again, it's about collaboration and working together towards this goal.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Lauha, just to pass that question on to you as well before we move on, because I think this is a question that quite a few women have about how we'll make sure we're as diverse as possible.
Yeah, I think we also need to pay attention, that we invite diverse groups to our panels and events and networking when we meet. And as Angela already said, our expertise portal and our LinkedIn group, everything is free, everything is open for everybody. All women are welcome. And I think we will need to pay attention to really reach out to diverse groups to make sure that, they are all represented.
Okay, thank you very much. We have received, especially in the past couple of minutes, quite a few more questions. We'll see if we can answer some of those on the LinkedIn group in subsequent days to not make sure that those are lost. But next, I've got a bit of an announcement on behalf of Angela and her organization, MobiCon. So MobiCon will be hosting a month full of women-focused content for International Women's Month throughout March. And this will include discussions, interviews, and project highlights of some of the inspiring work happening to improve mobility for women by our fellow colleagues in the industry. So for members of the Women in Cycling Network, they're offering 1 month free using the promotional code Women in Cycling, which you can use at academy.mobicon.com to sign up. We'll also be reposting this on the LinkedIn group site, and this offer will be valid for the next 2 weeks. So make sure you take advantage of that. Before we move to the next panel, we want to hear from you. So you are invited to participate in a poll, which will hopefully come up in just a minute here. Right. So which Women in Cycling goal is the most important to you? Is that networking, visibility of female experts, no all-male panels, adoption of inclusive policies, training, or mentoring? Just one answer. You have to pick the one that's most important to you, and we will see in just a second what the result of that is. So go. There we go. Okay. So it looks like visibility of female experts has come out on top there, followed by adoption of inclusive policies, networking, no all-male panels, mentoring, and then training. So diverse responses from a diverse group of women. Thank you very much for participating. By the way, we've had well over 500 participants, so 540 some to be exact, is the count right now. So great to be joined by so many today. For the next part of the agenda, I would now like to introduce Reluca Fischer, who is the president of Green Revolution, the president of the World Cycling Alliance, and vice president of the European Cyclists Federation. Reluca is going to moderate a panel of very interesting women in cycling who will share their stories with us. So Reluca, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jill, and hello everybody in this amazing day. Over 540 people, and I hope majority women joined today at this launch. And we talked about diversity and the need of learning from each other and give space to expertise. And this is why I'm so happy to be moderating this very extraordinary panel, where we have five amazing women which are covering industry, NGOs, the research and historical background, sports and athletes, and of course the brainwashers, which collects data. There are 5 stories just to like to have a taste about how diverse, how interesting, and how different the backgrounds of all our speakers are. And I will give each of them 5 minutes to talk and give you a glance about how great it is to be a woman in the cycling field and industry, and how much we can learn from each other and inspire from each other. So I will ask Susanne to start with you, Suzy Puello. She comes from Austria and she has cycling in her blood, really. So the floor is yours, Suzy.
Hello, my name is Suzy Puello, and Reluca, I have to correct you, I'm from Germany.
I'm sorry.
No problem. I'm born in the bike industry almost 60 years ago, in the German bike industry, and I would say this is bike vaccines by birth. And my great-grandfather was the founder of the Vinora Group, and when I came into the company in 1980, I found my father's company leaded by a man's world, let me say. And men are thinking in technical things while I was sitting in the beginning there and asking myself, where is the added value of some bike categories? When I took over in the beginning of the 90s, I just started to make a mixture out of women and men, because I think in specific in the bicycle world and in all the new products we are now creating in the future, the man and bikes thinking can, how do you say that, complement each other better than ever to bring out very good products in the future. Where men are thinking in technique and sportiveness, women are thinking more in practical, logical things. And this is for me the big advantage we can use on both sides. I will give one example. When we created the first off-road suitable high bike, mountain bike, men stood around all over the world watching the bike and did not believe, because it showed, they were anxious that this shows a kind of unsportiveness and laziness. But we were proven by the brave of a women, I would say, that we can change the world with different ideas. And in some areas, even women are more sensitive and careful, but in others, we are also brave. And this is what I could give young ladies which come into the bicycle world from my side, to remain a woman, be smart and work hard and stick to yourself, and especially have fun in bicycle riding.
Like usual, the micro has to stop. So thank you so much, Suzy. And you started with inspiring that it's, you always say it's always, it seems, but until it's done. And somebody which really struck my mind when I read the bio was Monica Settler, because she really proved that it is really just impossible until it's done. She was the first woman which was participating in an amazing race, a man-only race. And but I will let her say more about conquering all the heights and all the impossibilities, which are in fact not impossibilities. If there is a will, there is a way.
Thank you, Reluca. Yeah, I'm Monica Sattler. I'm an endurance cyclist, marketing manager for DT Swiss, a mentor, a public speaker, and an author. I'm originally from Germany, but I've lived in the United States, in Australia, Spain, and now in Switzerland. And I've been riding my road bike now for about 12 years. And the most passionate I'm about is actually group rides. What I love about it is you can ride with your friends, going for a coffee chat, but also going for a sprint to the city line limit if you want to. And I really love that, the big diversity of cycling. But I've now lived in quite a few countries and I've done many, many different group rides. And what I found is usually that I'm the only female. And if not the only female, definitely I'm a minority. And at some point I was thinking that I really want to inspire more women to ride bikes, but not only riding bikes, but actually pushing boundaries, really pushing their limits, and maybe doing something which seems impossible to do. So I was looking for something which exactly does that to me, which pushes my limits, pushes my boundaries, and where I'm scared of maybe doing it, and maybe that I would be failing to do it. You never know. So I decided to ride the Vuelta a España, which is one of the grand tours with the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France. It's 3 weeks long and over 3,000 kilometers. And so far there's only a male professional race. There's only a one-day women's race, but no 3-week women's race. So I decided to be the first female riding exactly the same stage at the same day as the male professionals just hours beforehand. So they started at 1 p.m. and I started somewhere between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And when I told my friends, acquaintance, and everyone about this project, 80% of the people said it was impossible to do. 80% of the people. In fact, actually, it was not just about those 3,000 kilometers in 3 weeks, but it was also the organization beforehand. Just getting everything ready, the logistics, hotels, recovery, getting support team to get this going. So it was quite a bumpy start already getting this project off the ground, but it was even more so an obstacle course when I started this ride. Just after the first day, actually my rear derailleur of the brake broke and I had to use a different bike. And so you can imagine riding like 400 of kilometers on a different bike, it's just asking for injuries. And a week later, I had already sleep deprivation. And I remember very clearly that I was sleeping for 4 hours and woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning and was very tired. My head was so foggy. And I had the longest stage ahead of me, 209 kilometers and over 3,600 meters of climbing, which took me then about 9 hours of riding. And then the last week, there was actually one day that I felt so sick that I basically bought half of the pharmacy empty with a hope that the next day I would be able to start again one of the stages. But although this was quite a up and down and quite an obstacle course, something very beautiful happened simultaneously. This project actually got quite a lot of media attention right from the start. So all of a sudden, there were groups of women joining me on the stages. I remember one day that there was 15 women driving from 200 kilometers away throughout the night to be able to join me at 5 a.m. in one of the stages. And at the last stage, there were 35 women waiting for me at the start line to finish with me this ride. It was absolutely beautiful. And I realized this project had been a huge success, inspiring women. But not only I was able to inspire them, they actually also inspired me. And what I realized is that when you want to achieve something great and you want to maybe achieve going for something seemingly impossible, having a support network and women who are thinking alike, like this Women in Cycling network, it's absolutely essential. So I'm hoping that through mentoring and through the expertise and the experience I've made in the last years, that I can contribute to empower women in the cycling industry. Thank you
so much, Monica. Really inspiring. You talked about the 4 hours sleep for a couple of weeks. I remember this period, but not related to so much athletic and sports, but to doing my MBA. So I'm going, of course, to the research and the academic part to Ruth Oldadzin, which is a very known face in the cycling network and in the research network. And she inspires people through education and history. Right now, she is the professor at the history division of the Technology Society Group of the Eindhoven University of Technology. And without education and without knowing our roots, we don't know who we are.
Well, thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be at this panel. I really want to commend you for your initiative. In a way, I would have loved this network to have existed in 2016. Let me explain. So in 2012, I stumbled upon the topic of cycling, and it was the most underrepresented topic in mobility studies. And my research has been particularly, I'm fascinated by things that are small, beautiful, and vulnerable and are subaltern. And so cycling to me was this perfect research topic, but nobody was doing. And at some point, I had a male colleague, and we started and wanted to publish a book on the history of cycling, a very rich history. And I wanted to get some money. I only needed, I think, like 5,000 euros. So I asked my male colleagues in this technical university who was doing smart mobility, can you help me raise 5,000? He looked at me and said, I can't wake up in the morning for 5,000. I only do 100,000. It was like the most amazing put down. And a friend of mine said, Ruth, you don't understand how the world works. Once you have raised 1 million, then they will listen to you. I said, oh, really? Is that how it works? So I was so angry. I did raise 1 million. And then for cycling research, and that happened in 2016. And we opened up the calls, and we got only male candidates. And I really, at some point, I had to look myself in the mirror and said, this cannot be. I cannot be the female professor in a male environment trying to raise this money, and we will have no women. So I really had to make a huge effort to get a woman among the 5 or 6 other. Which goes to tell you that we always have to be vigilant in being inclusive, and even being a woman does not mean or opening up that it will come to you. You have to work really, really hard to do so. But let me talk a little bit about research of cycling. Cycling has been undervalued, and it's only in 2012 that some people started to do research in this, and the topics are endless, really. And 2016, it became really more and more people, but mostly men. So I'm pitching here today, anyone who's listening, please submit your proposals. I actually have, I'm part of a network where we advertise for 10 new PhDs positions. And the topic is really whatever you decide is important to put on the agenda. So I'll share that in the chat. But I also want to say something is that women have always been there. In the 80s, 90s, women were very much part of the cycling culture. And as a matter of fact, like we heard earlier, the men in the industry realized that women were a huge market. And if you look at the images of the 80s, 90s, women were there in the advertisement. And women, the women's movement, the feminist movement, also discovered cycling as a empowering vehicle. So we have lots and lots of stories of in 80s, 90s. Then it seems to stop all of a sudden. There are many reasons for that, but I just want to say it has nothing to do with the fact that women are not there. It's just the way we understand or frame or understand our issues, that's why they have been made invisible. And that's a topic of research. I'll pick just one thing, but there are plenty of them. One of the research on mobility studies has been on commuting, how to commute from A to B. And the data that we gather has the problem that it does two things. One, it focuses really mostly on men going to work by car or whatever, but it also doesn't capture the kind of mobility that women do. Cycling for women is much more part of complex mobility, because women try to incorporate work, family life, social life. And so cycling is a part of that complex mobility pattern. It is those kinds of questions that we really need to address. And obviously in the chat, we have asked a call for inclusivity, and I cannot agree more, but I would say come and join, look at the link that I will be sharing, and please apply, make yourself heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you also for this great opportunity for all the women watching and sharing the news that you are offering, the position to apply for the PhD. And it's sharing, it's caring, and I'm going out of Europe, going a bit more to India, where it is totally different. And I'm happy to have Sharika joining us to talk about how did you make the Indians' first car-free day campaign, which started in your home country and in your hometown and developed in a couple of years into 70 locations into India. An inspiring story. Looking forward to hear it from you, Sarika. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Larissa, and great to be part of this great panel. It's really good to see so many women finally talking about mobility and that to cycling. So here is my story. I live in a city next to Delhi, which is called Gurgaon. And when I shifted 11 years back to the city, I realized that, I lose my freedom, because I was the person who I just don't like to drive car, or, that is something I cannot do. And then second thing, I realized that the city don't have any public transport system. So then I realized, oh my God, then what I'm going to do, how I'm going to move in the city. So I bought a bicycle. And then I realized, oh, how, like, then I started cycling actually after 20 years, after my, education, I started it again. And then I realized why actually women or men not cycling in the city. It's very, very unsafe. It is not like the part of the country you are from, where you have a wonderful, bicycle infrastructure, where kids can, not just women, but kids and elders can also cycle freely. But here, a abled, forget about a woman or a disabled person or a elderly person or kid, a able person cannot also cycle. So then we realized that we have to do something, because where we see there is a very, very less number of people cycling in the city, and especially women. That time I hardly see women cycling actually. And then in 2013 we started this first car free day in India, which is called Rahagiri Day. We started with few kilometers cordoning off, and just people were coming, running, cycling, doing yoga, and doing a lot of other activities. Kids started coming and playing. And finally on 2017 it started in New Delhi, and then it becomes national news kind. And then multiple cities across India saying that, hey, this is, then this whole cycling become cool in India. So it's not just that cycling for your exercise or commute or thing like that, but it become cool. That okay, if you are cycling, if you are a woman with that fancy cycling jersey, fancy cycle, then okay, you are getting recognitions. So then it picked up, and it started in almost 70 cities on 18 states across India. But the fortunate part is it didn't stop there. So the whole advocacy for cycling is still going on. And when I become actually the bicycle mayor of my city, I started working very deep down with the government itself. I again say that, oh, it's just, you know not about building, it's not about the elite cycling for fun or for recreation. It is about how we have to increase more and more women cycling for their commute, for to their workplace. Because then we realize how it whole cycling makes you independent, makes you flexible to move around in your city, as many of my co-panelists mentioned that already. So closely started working with the city government here, and now we have few kilometers of dedicated cycle track in our city, and we have few thousands of women like me started cycling in this city. I have seen many women after their 50s started cycling post COVID. This whole COVID actually changed the scenario. And then the whole city government realized this, that the so-called assumption they were having, that men and women behave in same way or travel in same way, which is absolutely wrong, because they adapt things very differently. That's why you rightly said, we need more and more women in our decision making process, in our planning and management of our city, when we are designing a city or planning a city infrastructure. So that's how here also we have group of women, who we cycle regularly, we go to work for cycling, bicycle, and started doing lots of advocacy work, started working with the government to build that safe infrastructure where not just us as a woman, our children can also cycle safely in the city. So thank you so much. I think this is the platform where we really need to talk more and more about such stories, and to learn from each other. Great stories from everyone actually. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sharika. You are an ambassador for Indian women cycling. We have our networks ambassador, Jill Warren, will tell you more about this as well, or you have it already here. We see it, these are the ambassadors of the first ones, of course, of the world, of the Women in Cycling network. I would say already world Women in Cycling, because we feel like all the time connecting and need to work with each other. A great initiative. I'm very honored to be also part of it. And as you know, all the ambassadors will share afterwards the networking sessions with you. But I will come back, and because we have somebody else very, very important and very, very dear to me, Pinar, not only because she comes one of the most beautiful regions for the world for me with a good wine, and you can cycle when you have a glass of wine, what you cannot do when you have a glass in so many countries. Another advantage why to join us in this network. From Milan, Pinar, you talk to authorities, and whatever you do, you call yourself a brainwasher, a cycling brainwasher. What does it have to do with?
Yeah, actually, brainwasher is the corporate title for activist, actually. But I go back a little because you have mentioned, yes, I'm based in Italy. I have been living for a very long time in Milan, but I was born in Turkey, in the beautiful city Izmir, where I actually started my career as a bicycle activist and blogger. I am working now for Bikeonomist, which is a communication and consultancy company dealing with the bicycle projects, only with the bicycle projects. And Bikeonomist is also the publisher of an online magazine called Bike Italia, where we actually focus on urban cycling, cycle tourism, and the economy of bicycles. So everything about bicycle except the competition and the races and performance, actually. I'm coming from another sector, so it's a technology and cloud solutions, so super boring things. And I was a part-time activist, spending my leisure time on convincing people, activating people to choose the right thing and do the right thing. And when I was asked to start to work for Bikeonomist, I couldn't keep the title activist, but I had to find another one, and I could choose my own title as a cycling brainwasher. What we do is actually what I'm trying to do with my female colleagues and collaborators is the things that have been told us are not actually true. So in the last 200 years, with the invention of the bicycle, there were things that have been done, and we cannot expect a different result now. So we need to change the way we do things to expect a different result. So also the storytelling makes a part of this. If we start telling about our experiences and put the knowledge in the right places, which is content marketing, actually, digital content marketing, and if we create occasions for having an experience, so it's the female-only events or bicycle rides or any other kind of things, then we can convince people. Once we convince people, then we can expect them to be active as we are, so we have even more ambassadors. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pinar. It is inspiring, and as you correctly said, it's just the top of the iceberg what our participants could see with these 5 amazing, inspiring women telling us about their story, being empowering and sharing the knowledge, and we can do so much more in our network. I'm sure that we will have plenty of opportunities, and I will wish now to have Jill next to us to put us, thank you for joining us, for Jill, for closing up the session by saying also a bit from my side that we talk ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to be like they have been the last 200 years with us. We are much more inclusive. We talk about sharing experience, but also emotions and vulnerabilities. And this makes us, let's say, a bit of different than the men world, a bit of more creative or more courageous, a bit more working hard. Not that we have something against them. We love and embrace their work, also them sometimes. But I think that together we can really do an amazing thing, working together, sharing experience, mentoring and helping each other, making us visible on this huge, amazing scene of cycling. Jill, the floor is yours, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Reluca. And thank you to Suzy, Monica, Ruth, Sarika, and Pinar. Really nice, inspiring stories. Since we started putting the Women in Cycling Network together, people we've talked to about it have been really supportive and asking how they can get involved. And so we set up our network of ambassadors to help facilitate that and to have some women who were really excited about agreeing to help us out with that. So our ambassadors strongly believe in creating gender diversity in the sector and would like to share and transfer their knowledge and experience to help empower more women in our sector. So many thanks to you for signing on. To our audience, you can find further details about the ambassadors on the Women in Cycling website. And before we break for the networking, I want to make sure everybody knows how they can support and get involved with us. But I'd also like to repeat something that Ruth said during the session, that there's PhD positions that people can apply for, in particular one with her in the area of mobility justice, and she'd love to have some great women apply for that. So, do look at our LinkedIn chat later or get in touch with Ruth directly if you're interested on that. So, right. Another announcement that one of our ambassadors has passed on to us before the session, which we're happy to pass on. Marianne Weinreich from Rambol will also be posting registration links to their upcoming Gender and Mobility webinar on International Women's Day on the 8th of March. So we'll post the link and promotion graphics in the LinkedIn group tomorrow or the next couple of days when more women have signed up for that. So be on the lookout for that as well. So again, how can you be involved? Well, help us build further awareness, use the hashtag Women in Cycling, both today and beyond. Sign up for our expertise portal, sign in for the LinkedIn group. See us at VeloCity in Lisbon, September 6th to 9th this year. Join the networking session in just a minute. So let me explain how that is going to work. So you must use a separate link that you've been sent for the networking session. I believe you can also see it in the chat function, but don't push it quite yet. So Green TV has sent that to everyone who indicated in their registration that they wanted to participate in the networking. We're a bit a victim of our own success today. So originally we would have liked to structure this to have each kind of breakout session of networking hosted by one of our ambassadors. But the interest from you was so great that it wasn't quite possible to organize that in quite that way from a logistics perspective. So when you go to the networking link, it will open up another Zoom session, a regular Zoom meeting session, which you all might be familiar with, different than the more broadcasting session we've got set up right now. And when you enter that, after a couple of minutes, the breakout groups will be randomly assigned, and you may have an ambassador in your group, you might not, but we are very confident that people interested in this group are friendly and eager to meet a few like-minded people today. And our hope is that you'll meet some great women, make some new contacts, and walk away with some people you didn't know before. The ones not coming to the networking session, thank you very much, and goodbye. For the ones going to the breakouts, please use the link to the networking session that you either received by email or that you can see in the chat. Also, check your spam folder if you're looking at your email in case it landed in there. So at the end of the networking session, we'll have a very short wrap up with people all brought back to the main room. And once again, thank you so much for attending today. And we're going to sign off and go straight to the networking session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.